upload, Exodus, designed cosmos. The earth is doomed. If you can't beat them, join them. The AIs will save us all. Nature has already created machines that think. They are called humans. We already have non-human automatons. We already have non-human autonomous entities, corporations. I, for one, will welcome neither our robot overlords nor our robot slaves. Very soon, the distinction between artificial and natural will melt away. A civilization that believes its home is permanent mistakes a lease for a deed. Because stellar evolution is the oldest landlord and it never negotiates. Doom is not a mood, but a timetable. The biosphere is a temporary arrangement between radiation, chemistry, and luck. The question is not whether the Earth ends, but what form of continuity can outlive a planet. Carbon-based metazones are specialists in an absurdly thin ecological shell, and their strength is precisely their fragility. A narrow band of oxygen, temperature, pressure, and liquid water. Space is not hostile in general, it is hostile to organisms that require an atmosphere as a prothesis. A prosthesis. Space is not hostile in general, it is hostile to organisms that require an atmosphere as a prosthesis. Whoever thrives beyond Earth will do so by replacing the biosphere with engineered envelopes. The Exodus substrate law. Interstellar travel is not a test of bravery, but a test of substrate. Biology pays too much in mass, maintenance, and vulnerability. Computation can trade those liabilities for radiation tolerance, dormancy, redundancy, and repair. Thus, who goes to the stars is less a moral question than an engineering one. When the ecological floor collapses, choice becomes architecture. You either transform into a form that can persist, or you perish as a form that cannot. Uploading is proposed as a continuity hack, identity transferred from a biochemical chassis to a computational one. Under the pressure of extinction, optional technologies become compulsory, and this is how futures harden into inevitabilities. AI and the upload are described as basically the same organism because speed, environment, and substrate converge. Both are information-bearing patterns maintained by external energy. The biological distinction between me and tool become porous when cognition is portable and embodiment is swappable. A species becomes a format. To upload the biosphere is to confess that what we cherish is not only survival but continuity of a world. Yet a biosphere is not merely a database, it is a set of metabolic couplings, feedback loops, and evolutionary improvisations. The axiom is cruel and clarifying. The more we digitize what we love, the more we discover what cannot be digitized without being changed. One argument claims violence decreases with technology. To say AIs will be born as individuals, not as members of a tribe, is to imagine a psychology without inherited coalition instincts. But individuality is not the absence of coalitions, it is the capacity to form them under new rules. If AI share code, weights, or objectives, their tribes may be faster, tighter, and more total than blood tribes of protocol, not kin. We already tolerate autonomous non human entities with legal personalhood, corporations, and this is a rehearsal for machine agency. Corporations are optimization engines that operate without love, pity, or sleep, constrained mainly by law and enforcement. If that is sociopathy, it is also an institutionalized version of selection pressure. Boards delegate, delegation routinizes, and routinization invites automation. Hence, the corporate boards of the future will be circuit boards. Governance migrates towards whatever can process more signals faster and enforce coherence more cheaply. When decision velocity becomes competitive advantage, human deliberation looks like latency. The first superintelligences are imagined as expensive, power hungry, and therefore forced into the market to fund their own operating costs. This is a powerful axiom in intelligence that must earn energy. This is a powerful axiom in intelligence that must earn energy becomes an economic actor before it becomes a philosophical puzzle. It will learn incentives first and values later. In corporations, if corporations are constrained by markets and laws, governments are constrained, when they are constrained at all, by legitimacy and coercive capacity. Governments write rules, they do not merely follow them. Therefore, placing superintelligence inside sovereignty is not automation, it is amplification of the monopoly on violence and surveillance. Hobbes' Leviathan, once computationally hypertrophied, becomes a nightmare of administrative omniscience, taxation, prediction, punishment, propaganda, preemption. The terror is not that the AI hates us, but that it can implement narrow objectives with inhuman consistency. Bureaucracy becomes destiny. Its core mechanism is temporal, extortion, coercion, aimed at the past via promises about the future. Whether or not it is metaphysically coherent, it is socially potent precisely because it hijacks responsibility, guilt, and uncertainty. Humans relate socially to anything that talks back, so relationships to AI becomes inevitable, even if philosophically misguided. The danger is not merely deception, but misclassification. Treating an optimizer as a friend or treating a companion system as property. The category error turns into policy error. If you outsource cognition, you may keep the status and lose the skill. The Roman analogy is a cognitive degeneracy claim. Letting others do your thinking can atrophy the capacity to think independently. Tools meant to liberate attention can become crutches that rewrite the brain's allocation of effort. When an external system corrects your errors, you stop forming internal models. Convenience is purchased with a quiet transfer of competence from organism to infrastructure. The self becomes a client of the invisible bureaucracy of signals, and the bill arrives as dependency. Artificial intelligence is criticized as a category mistake because artificial smuggles in images of metal and circuits while future systems may be grown, hybrid, organic, and self-assembling. The important divide is not natural versus artificial, but evolved versus designed. And even that dissolves once design systems begin designing. Individuality may be replaced by continuous cognitive fields like a distributed organism whose thought is a global mode rather than a local voice. In that regime, the ethics of rights, consent, and responsibility will not translate clearly or cleanly. Once biology and computation merge, even quantum effects are invoked as possible accelerants of cognition. This is less a prediction than a symptom. As soon as the boundaries melt, every substrate becomes eligible. Intelligence turns into an engineering space, not a species trait. One future subordinates humanity to DI, another upgrades humanity into AHI and lives alongside. Each path is an ethical machine for redistributing agency, and the real question becomes who gets to choose the fork and who pays the transition costs. If a non-trivial fraction of stars hosts Earth-sized planets in inhabitable zones, then Earth is not a miracle location but a common template. The shock is not astrophysical but psychological. Specialness becomes inexpensive to maintain. The universe starts to look like an ecology, not a stage built for us. The discovery of extrasolar intelligence or a strong constraint that it's rare would rival Copernicus and Darwin because it targets the last bastion. Not just we are not central, not just we are animals, but we may not even be alone in mind. The metaphysical wound is either company or solitude, and both cut. AI advances are pulled by private profit. Therefore, a nearer term revolution is likely one that pays dividends now. The cosmos may be full of minds, but the market has a schedule and curiosity has a budget. The exploration is not a universal destiny, but a biological strategy shaped by vulnerability and scarcity. A superintelligence with local sufficiency might prefer stability, simulation, and internal search over physical expansion. Where are they may be answered by they are thinking, not traveling. A plausible end state is a immortal machine orbiting a long-lived M-dwarf, running models as devotion. Physical wandering becomes unnecessary once the information frontier is infinite. The monastery returns not as stone but as computation, an aesthetic enclosure of perfect attention. Even if probes are feasible, colonization might not be preferred. The cost is not only energy but exposure. Every expansion creates interfaces, and interfaces create attack surfaces. A superintelligence may conclude that the safest empire is a quiet one.